Hey, what's up, guys? See you here. Kicking off the 9:30, 9:15. Let's call it 9:20. She's getting a note somewhere. Kicking off 9:23 for July 2nd, 2025. See you, folks. Happy July. Somehow it's July. I have no idea how that's possible. Time continues to march forward. But I hope you're all having a good day. It's been a while since we hung out. So we have a little bit of a longer stream today, which is probably a good thing. It'll give us a to kind of catch up. There's been some movement since last time we spoke. Certainly starting yesterday, in terms of how the market was rotating. It's always a little bit difficult to take any of those rotations seriously for longer than a couple of days, just because this is such a concentrated market, in my opinion, that that's just more common to see the big stuff moving. But we did see pretty good rotation yesterday. Saw rotation into basically everything that's been lagging, and then we saw kind of a momentum trade get crushed. So money just flowed out of momentum and went into the laggards, which makes sense. I think one of the more interesting laggards here is Apple. I think Henry's been doing a pretty good job of that one. I caught that trade with you guys yesterday. That was a good trade. And so that's kind of, I won't say that's what I'm looking for, but if I could find something that's kind of techish that is lagging, and Apple kind of hits all those notes, we could even bring in Tesla into the equation potentially. I would need to see some signals from the inside out. Then that's kind of what I'm looking for. So let's start here real quick. So new all-time high. That is new since the last time that we spoke. Here you are trading, right around the 6,200 mark. Everything looks good. I don't see any major issues. It certainly has a vibe of being slightly tired, but that doesn't mean that it necessarily has to pull back. It's been an extremely resilient market, and this week does typically have good seasonality. So I think if we're going to see a pullback, it probably happens next week, maybe not this week of any significance. Next week would make a little bit more sense. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't see any issues here on the SPX and the SPY. You got some pretty good scores up here. Of course, the ES itself is just neutral, so nothing really overly exciting there for now. And if we go to the smaller time frames, it's basically a flat day. It's basically a flat day. There's a couple things here that are just not totally perfect. And when that is the case, it usually just means be a lot more vigilant with your risk control. But if you look at the 200 here on the 15-minute ES, I'm going to trace it in. You see how for the first time it's gone flat. It's flat here, whereas opposed to the entire move up, it had this nice slope. Very minor thing there, but slight change to the pattern. And then much more glaringly, look at the indicator here. See how it's going down while price is trying to go up. That is more of an issue. So we'll see how that plays out, but it's usually difficult to spike out of this. Now, this is the most resilient market potentially of all time, so maybe it just doesn't care and will spike out of this, but normally this is not easy to spike out of. Normally what needs to happen is it needs to kind of base here, so maybe something like this. This would be kind of the positive, this would be kind of the optimistic scenario. Basing, reset the indicator, recross, re-trigger, and then go from there. But ideally, that doesn't happen until next week. Ideally. All right. So Bought some Amazon here before the start of the session. Looking to play the hourly squeeze on it. I don't know if this qualifies as a laggard or not. I mean, technically, the Qs are at all-time highs, whereas Amazon is well off its all-time high. Um, I would say it's kind of maybe a tweener, where it's not quite as laggish as something like Apple. But basically, the idea comes from here. So I'm just looking to see if this can turn into something. I'd like to say with a little bit more spunk. You get the NQ of a third. You have this basically down a tenth, 2/10. But this is the impetus for the trade. It's a max bull squeeze. So basically, it's a strong bull chart. We look inside of it. We take this bias, which is a strong bull, into the internal part of the chart. The internal part of the chart matches. It's even stronger. It's a max bull, and then we have the squeeze. So check, check, check. And that is that. So we'll see how that plays out. I gave it enough time to see if we can try to do something. And aside from that, I don't really see too much else on the indexes. I've been having some pretty good luck lately on my time off the mic with just running some scans based off of hourly and 4-hour squeezes, mostly 4-hour squeezes. So we can certainly start there. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We do have a longer session today, so we'll have plenty of time, hopefully, for questions. And I think that might be it. Good to see you, Eshu, Zafire, Mirza, Lorna, thank you. Bill, Andrew, Dwayne, Peter, and Odie in the house. We got Shepard dropping memes. All right, you set the bar high, but you did exceed it. That's fantastic. Set the bar high, and then you exceeded it. Caesar, good to see you. You want to ask if we can get the IV link from the video? Yeah, so it should be in the room. So if you go, yeah, it's up there. So if you want the IV rank, which I recommend you at least play with the idea, because I mean you can find it in your platform. It's just it's just going to take time. So why ever waste time doing that? So there's the IV rank study. Just type in IV up here. Go to the files. Type in IV. Download that. Put it on your daily chart. If you want to know how I use that, there's a video on YouTube regarding trading verticals, and I discuss how I use it there. Yeah, we can take a look at AMAT. Good to see a weekend golfer in Esther. I think about playing the Bitcoin squeeze. Would you do it through MSTR or IBIT? Good question. Let's I'll jot it down and take a look. You talk about picking a basket of stocks, but what do you think about for some people it is not as much about the stock, but rather swing trading versus day trading? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. Is the question, is it a question about swing trading versus day trading, pros and cons? Schwab, yeah, I've been trading some Schwab too. That one's been pretty clean. All right, so let's do this. We have a little bit of catching up to do, and we have a couple extra minutes today to do it, so we should probably do it. So I'll let the indexes trade through here for a bit. The updates to the indicators did come out yesterday. I think the email will be out today. Just for everybody who has them, you'll get an email telling you about that they're ready to be installed. But I can also just tell you ahead of time. So if you want to go grab them from your indicators page, they have been updated. And it is the best variation of them ever. It's been about a year and a half worth of cobbling it together, but the end result is pretty damn good. Okay, my computer's going real slow here, so I'll enjoy this. So let's just start. This is the indexes. This will tell us where to get oriented. Yeah, I'm glad you like it, Ashley. Yeah, I did a lot of work on the user interface, so it's super clean now. It looks really simple because it just looks like a label. I guess if you ignore the bottom indicators, it kind of just looks like a label. Cleaned up the structure of it, took off all the redundancy, turned the numbers, which were, a number doesn't mean anything unless you know what that number is out of. So I just removed that and turned it into a percentage because that always makes sense. So I'm super happy with it. It's pretty cool to have something that's actually fun to use too. Like, yes, it's very robust and it works on everything, but it's also fun. It makes things really fast. All right, so we got a max bull situation here, folks. We got max bulls across the board. Of course, the laggard is the rut, but this one's still bullish, just not max bull. We even got the DIA trying to come up here. So all of this is really, really solid. I mean, any of this is really tradable. I would probably just focus on U.S. markets just because I don't see a reason to trade anything other than that. Mag 7 here, max bull as well. So basically, this tells us everything's in play. So let's kind of maybe narrow that down a bit more. And let's look at sectors. I think most of these are going to be in play as well. Got the NQ here at resistance. We'll see how much resistance it is, but right around 22.8 is pretty good resistance on NQ. So I'd like to think this XLY squeeze, which is firing today, is going to help that Amazon trade. I would like to believe that. So thing's still loading here, so let's give it a second. I am streaming to like 4 different places at once, so my computer doesn't love that. All right, so we got a max bull here on SPY. Of course, ARC is max bull, XLC max bull, XLU, yuck, max bull. Still don't have a ton of interest in this guy. I'm not going to have a ton of interest in that guy. I mean, there's pretty much a lot of things here that are tradable. I even think maybe even home builders here are starting to get an actual bid. Now, am I ever going to go here when I can go, pull back buy on something stronger? Probably not. But this has been a critical part of the market that's been missing is these home builders. In my opinion, the two most important parts of the market that you want to see trade up to confirm, solid foundation is home builders and semiconductors. And some semiconductors definitely have that vibe. But industrials are in play, financials are in play, tech is in play. I would even put XLY in play just because even though it doesn't have a perfect score, it's a strong bull and it has a 1 dot squeeze that's firing long. It's not too far away from support. So this pretty much makes almost everything's in play, even the ever hated utilities. And the only things I wouldn't probably mess around with too much are staples and healthcare. So that'll basically give us a green light for the entire market, which is not terrible. So let's do this. Normally, when we do this, we'll say, okay, well, there's like 3 places to be, but after having done the work, it looks like you can go into any number of places. So let's actually look for individual stocks that meet certain criteria. And let's see if we can find anything with a squeeze. So I'm going to load up the Max Bull scan. For those of you with the indicators, I want you to pay attention to how I run this scan because it has a lot of inputs, but I'm not going to typically keep all of them. You can, but of course, the more inputs, the more stringent the scan is. So out of the box here, I'm just going to run it as is. This will give us the strongest of the strong because there's so many different things that it's checking for. If you look at all of the inputs here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then squeezes 10. So there's 10 variables that it has to check before it will return a result. 9 momentum based, 1 squeeze based. All right, so we got 35 total results. Morgan, Boeing, Cisco, Lam. Okay, so let's make a quick list here. I'm just jotting these down. All right, so ran it as is, and then what I do next is I delete the high-low pro scan. So it's going to delete these last two. I'm just going to really open up the scan here. So I'm going to actually delete most of this. Now, of course, by deleting these inputs, you make the scan looser, meaning that it'll find things, but they will be of lower technical quality. All right, so I'm going to delete everything except the trend oscillator position for the daily and the weekly. So now it is looking for anything that has a positive trend oscillator position on weekly and daily and nothing else. I'm also going to delete the 1 hour squeezes. And just for kicks, I'm going to delete the 2-day squeeze. So now I'm only looking for daily and 4 hour squeezes. We'll make our list and then we'll actually check them out. Okay, so we have another 36 here, but a completely different set of things. So this is daily and 4 hour. So these are my favorite time frames for squeezes. That's why I'm willing to open up the parameters a bit here. So let's go through these quickly. MSTR, that was asked about. It's a good thing that it's here. Mondelez. Roblox. Forever up. Newmont. MPC again. Zscaler again, take 2. Dollar Tree Toast we already have. Okay, so not a ton of heavy hitters here, but at least enough to focus our energies. So now that we have our list, then we go over here. There's no way Amazon stays green and pushes, right? I don't believe it. It certainly cannot. All right, so Cisco. I don't really see anything here on it that's a signal, so I'm going to pass. Morgan. Hourly squeeze. Near fire line. Very, very strong situation here, but I mean, I gotta write it down. It's suboptimal because it's near the fire line. It's 3 ATR plus a fire line. That'd be great. The place to get this is about 141, but I'll jot it down just because the setup is actually that good. Go to Boeing. Boeing here, I'm not entirely sure why it's on the scan. I think it has a 2-day squeeze. This actually is in play too. You can hear how excited I am to trade these. Yeah, geez, all right, I guess. So I'm going to make it A tier to B tier, but we're picking from, at least from what I'm seeing out there, the best of the best. It's just I'm going to further differentiate them between good, good and very good. Morgan goes into A tier, Boeing goes into B tier, with the understanding that B tier in this case isn't the worst thing in the world. Lamb, another hourly squeeze, another max bull. Somebody asked about AMAT earlier, so I'll use LRCX as a gateway to AMAT. So we have a 90, we have 100, and we have 50. 90, 100, 50. Let's look at AMAT. 90, 100, 50. Okay, so AMAT's 40, 75, 100. So it would be LRCX is better. Okay, so that makes it simple. And again, these two are companion stocks, so they're basically going to move the same. And LRCX here beats it by a decent margin, actually. Yeah, I think this is in play too. LRCX. Autodesk. I think this one's already kind of bust out of its pattern. I don't see any major squeezes. So I'll pass. MPC, I'll pass on that one. I'm not a huge fan of energy. Which probably means it works huge, but I'll pass on it. Toast. Not a huge fan of these either. These kind of little stocks. These this is more like a TG kind of situation. The daily is pretty good. This does look like it will break out, but I'm not a huge fan of trading these. They just aren't. They don't offer the consistency usually that I like. They'll do nothing, 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 and then they'll be up 15% in a day. JBL, I mean, this is just pure momentum here. Jeez Louise, what a move. This one's of course just a continuation off the hourly. I don't have a play on this one. This doesn't fit into my plan to buy it up 4 weekly ATR. But it's, you can see for yourself, the signal is pretty undeniable. So I recognize it's good, but I'm going to pass. Just a few more here, then we'll make a decision. Okay, so this all looks the same. This is crazy. This thing's doubled. This thing's doubled since April. That was a crazy move. Don't see anything to do there on it. Ulta. Okay, so this one could be interesting. Daily squeeze looks good. You're not that far away from support. IV rank of 2 implies to buy the calls. I guess I have to put this one in the second tier. Again, the understanding that tier 1 and tier 2 are both quite good. And so speed it up here. So you want to look at MSTR as a Bitcoin proxy. It did come up on the list. It only came up when we loosened our parameters. The weekly is solid. The daily needs a little work. It's very neutral here. I suppose if you desperately needed to have it here, if you just wanted to take a shot, the shot that I see is buy it here, stop it out below yesterday's low. But I prefer to get better internal signals before I take a shot on this. So I can't even put this in the list. MDLZ. I don't love the staples, but I did notice that this had a very good setup and a pretty good squeeze. And it's a multi-day squeeze. Let me leave this one up to your own discretion. I'll put it in B tier. I keep calling it B tier, but this is like, you know, peak versus not. All right, just 2 more here. I'm kind of liking that LRCX. I think that part of the market is lagged. Like semiconductors have certainly done well, but the manufacturers of the semiconductors, maybe not so much. Yeah, I think ZS probably needs a little bit more time to mature. But I'll put it in first part, and then I'll share the list with you guys here at the end so you know what I'm doing. So you're finding resistance here on the NQ right around that 22.8 level. Don't forget that level, by the way, 22.8, pretty important level. And then take two with 4-hour squeeze. I actually do like this one. It's not crazy extended. It's kind of exactly where it needs to be bought. Okay, I'll put this one in A2. All right, so I'll show the list here with them. And of course, there was a lot more things that we could do. Toast fits the bill. Autodesk, basically everything we looked at kind of fits the bill. It's just a matter of controlling for risk. The reason I say it all fits the bill is because we scanned for that. So we scanned using all of those different technical parameters, which would filter out all the stuff that we don't want to trade. The problem is some of this stuff either A doesn't have squeezes or B doesn't have squeezes and is at like some ridiculous extension. So that is the list that I'll be working on there. I haven't quite yet decided which one is best. Part of me thinks take two here could be worth a shot because XLC is strong. This is in a buy zone. So what I mean by this is in a buy zone is the daily score tells you where to buy it in terms of moving averages. Now you don't always want to buy moving averages, right? Because, well, for obvious reasons, if you're not in a trend, let's say your moving averages are all kind of like this, and all sideways, you don't want to buy that. But the indicator goes in and tells you, okay, this is a sufficiently good trend to then look to buy where it implies to buy. So with a max bull, it tells you to buy between the 5 and the 8, which is basically where we are now. So that's intriguing to Sam. So let's go to take two, see how to play this. It's a 4-hour squeeze. It is liquid enough that I could go to next week. Yeah, I think a pretty chill trade on this is the 240, 250 debit spread for July monthly. It's not going to knock your socks off in terms of delta, but it's a pretty chill trade. It's about the right price too. $4 on a 10 wide with $1 intrinsic. I'm kind of liking that one just because it intersects well with what I'm looking to do, which is hit the sector, hit the index, the sector, and the stock. 4-hour squeeze is clean, daily squeeze. Well, there is no daily squeeze, but there's an hourly. I just don't think that's actually the best play here. Because I think the best play is to try to catch this hourly squeeze out of the squeeze and then get out. So I'll probably cut back the expiration. Maybe look at the money for July 11th. And we'll sell them 250 against that. Yeah, I think I like that exact trade, but for next week a little bit more. 240, 250 for next week. I'm gonna leave an order open at 325 on this. I just want to see if they'll fill me at 325, and if they do, I'll post it. But I do kind of need to figure out, which one would be best here. So right off rip, I think this one certainly fits the bill. Let me look at LRCX. If LRCX had that 4 hour squeeze, I'd be instant buying it. For those of you that like just straight up momentum, this is as clean of a signal on Morgan as it gets. It's not a comfortable place to buy it for a swing trade because you're buying it at the fire line plus 3 ATR. But if there was ever a way to actually get through this chunk of resistance, it would look exactly like those. But I'll pass on that one for now. All right, so kind of all road led me back to tank two. Just finish the thought process here, and then I'll answer any questions. Normally, we don't have this many things to choose from. I'm a little tempted here to scoop up some Boeing. A little tempting. Okay. All right, so got the 325 bid there on take two. And I'll post it if I get filled. And then for everything else, I'll just need a little bit of time on my own to figure it out as to if there's anything else I really want to do or not. Let me type it up here on take two. I'm doing the 40, there it is. I'm doing the 40-50 for next week. Actually, let me see if they'll give it to me for a lower price. I got one, but let's see if they'll give me a cheaper one. Okay. That will do. So I did get filled. This is for next week. It's the 40-50. You can get it for 315. Of course, the lower the better. So work your price. Bear with me just a second here as I copy and paste this from Toss. So I got filled on the 40-50 for next week at 315. We'll post it. Okay. Where's the alert? Cool. Amazon's a little bit of a boat anchor here. It's not bad, but it's certainly not helping NASDAQ today. All right, so we'll have another about 35 minutes here. If you guys have any question, anything you're looking at, let me know. But that's kind of the process there. Might seem a little bit extended, but it takes longer to talk all this stuff out. One thing I traded yesterday that I was pretty surprised by how well it moved was CSX. I ran the same scans I ran with you guys, and I found this. I was going to alert it, but I was like, it's my day off the mic. What's the point of alerting something so boring? And then it just went straight up. So I'll put this back on your radar as well for pullback buys. I think it's moving pretty well. Just look at a couple more here. I know folks have been looking at this IonQ. The pattern looks great. I really wish it wasn't high compression. So I'll go ahead and punt it over to you guys. That's probably as much as I have for today in terms of stuff like that. I shared the list there with you guys. I'll verbally kind of just tell you what came up on the list in case you want to look at some of these things. Like, let's say you just don't really care about how extended something is. You're going to trade it, as a day trade. And a lot of this stuff is much more in play. So something like Morgan Stanley would be in play for that. So I'll just read the list here. So it was Morgan Stanley, Boeing, LRCX, Toast, MSTR, Mondelez, Roblox, NEM, Newmont, ZS, MPC, Take-Two, and then that's about it. Alrighty. Let me go through the chat, see if I missed anything. We looked at AMAT. Somebody has to look at AMAT. We looked at that. Somebody has to look at MSTR. We looked at that. We did not look at IBIT. So the question was MSTR versus IBIT. I remember looking at this. I took a trade. I took basically a day trade on this on Monday, I think it was. And I remember liking the pattern. I would go with this over MSTR. So just keep it simple. What's the number? 100%. Pattern looks serviceable too. You have the undercut as well. So basically we target there for a breakout right around 63. Pattern looks decent. Double bottom, undercut low. Max bull score. Look at MSTR. I think it's like 50%. So MSTR is 40%. So you always got to ask yourself, where is it losing points? It's losing some points here for lack of structure. It's losing some points because it doesn't have anything here. This is just nothing. It gains points because it does have thrust. So I think if IBIT works, this probably wakes up too. But as it sits right now between IBIT and MSTR, I think it's pretty resoundingly clear that IBIT is the trade. Is there an IBIT trade out there for you guys? Has anybody posted anything? The way it's shaping up, Bitcoin is shaping up to have like a massive kind of blow off move at some point. It's just, I think I saw that they like removed capital gains tax from Bitcoin, which if that's true, I haven't confirmed it, so I probably shouldn't repeat it, but I heard it. If that's true, that's like massive. It's a massive deal. I'll take two's up $1 since we got in. You don't hate that. BTAI. I've never traded this. This is a good one for John's momentum tool. So, I mean, we could take a look at it if you'd like to with that. With my stuff, it's this doesn't fit into my trading plan, buying this kind of stuff. This isn't somewhere that's serviceable for me. I can almost tell you without even looking at it, with using John's momentum indicator, it's going to be showing momentum. I mean, anything that has this kind of parabolic shape to it is usually going to register as having momentum. Does it have juice? Yeah, it does seem to have juice. I don't really see anything that would stop it. This is early. This is early. This is fantastic. That's early. There's no squeezes or anything, but it probably has high short interest, and this thing's probably going to gun up here for about 10. I don't see anything that would really stop it here, right? There's not like any. This is too spiky to be real resistance, so I don't see any actual resistance until there, right? I doubt anyone who bought it at 9 didn't puke it out at 250, right? So I don't think that this little structure here is very resistance inducing. So resistance probably doesn't come until 10. Looks good. I mean, it's not something I'm going to trade, but don't let that stop you. I would say if you can catch another 15, every 15-minute squeeze would be a buy. That's kind of how I would trade this. So if I didn't have this already, and I don't, and I won't because I'm not going to trade it, but if I didn't have it and I was looking to trade it, I would look at literally just wait for a 15-minute squeeze to develop, try to buy it near the 15-minute 21, sell it when the squeeze gives you a blue bar against the green after firing long. That is what I would do. Let's go back and check on take two here. When we were looking at it, it was at this price, and then it dropped down to almost flat, which is when we bought it. So this will be kind of a cool test to see how it all works, because this should be the buy zone for it. So as a rule of thumb there, and this is probably something I should have included in the indicator update video, what the score is, where the score tells you to buy. Hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory, but when it's max bull, buy between the daily 5 and the daily 8, because you can afford to be aggressive. If it's a strong bull, try to get it as close as possible to the daily 21. If it's just a regular bull, try to get it as close as possible to the daily 50. And if it's anything neutral, neutral up, neutral down, neutral in general, ignore the moving averages completely and use previous structure, so previous highs and previous lows. So we'll see how this one decides to play ball. On Friday, I went and I looked at an apartment for my mom in Austin. She's lived in Houston her whole life. And I think we found one. So by August, she'll be moving up here. So there's going to be plenty of pictures of her cat that I'll be sharing. Her cat, which was my cat for a week until I gave him to her. You care about which stocks you trade, but what if your edge isn't in what stocks you trade, but you are better at swing trading or day trading? For example, I don't have particular stocks I trade better than others, but I don't make money day trading. All my money comes from swing trading, no matter the stock. Well, I think that that's good self-awareness. That's a good start. Most people aren't even there in terms of their self-awareness. So yeah, I would just say that at the end of the day, really, if you're being completely honest with yourself, you know yourself best. You know what your P&L says, right? So if that is the case and you don't make money day trading, guess what? You just made your life a lot easier because you're no longer looking for day trades. For myself, I can go either way. There's part of me that prefers day trading. I really enjoy being flat. Taking the money where it is, keeping the risk contained for a small time frame. So there's part of me that really likes day trading. But I would say for the vast majority of people, I think the in quotations, the easier path is swing trading, especially when you have a bull market underneath you, right? If you have a bull market underneath you, it's kind of hard to miss. It's kind of hard to miss. So, and the thing with that is, if you have a bull market underneath you and you're swing trading, there's no guarantee it'll go up on Tuesday or Wednesday. But if you're not present, then on Thursday it pops higher, you missed it. So I'm not entirely sure what your question is there, but I would say good self-awareness in terms of identifying what you do best. And if that is the case for you, then you're not a day trader. So don't worry about it. I would still maybe try to sharpen that blade a little bit because it will be helpful to you. There will be a moment in time. I know this seems unbelievable, but there will be a moment in time where the market will not just go straight up every single day, and day trading will become the song that is played. And if you don't know how to dance to that song, then it's going to be a boring time for you until you wait for the swing trading to come back. So I would say just continue doing what you have proven to yourself works for you, which is swing trading. And then very quietly as you swing trade, maybe practice day trading with very small size. And I really do mean like very small size, like especially if you're just not great at it. Like you could practice with like a micro on the ES or 10 shares of SPY, right? But just try to trade that micro as if it was $1 million trade, right? Just take it as seriously as you would if it was a 1,000 lot. And I think that's a good way to practice, and eventually you'll be good at both. At least that's the goal. Amazon with a little bid here. Oh yeah, I'm a NASDAQ stock. I should be up to date. So we'll see if this hourly squeeze here can fire along. The put call is 0.48. Yeah, very low. Very, very low. I think it continued until next week. I think next week might be. I would say this. I wouldn't be getting more excited as we go into next week. Like I think if you're getting happier and happier as the days goes on, as opposed to more and more cautious, I think you're probably doing it wrong. The high-low column on your search is part of the indicator. No, it's. I I actually don't even know what that is. So you're asking about over here. I want to say this is like how close it is to its high or low, but I genuinely I just leave it there because I visually kind of I like it, but in reality I have no idea what this even is. This is just something that's built into TOS. It has nothing to do with the indicator whatsoever. Maybe if one of you knows, you can tell me. I'll probably just research it so I can finally figure out what it means. But no, it doesn't have any input into pretty much anything. Yeah, we looked at IBIT. I think that looks pretty solid. I think that actually looks pretty solid. I might look to scoop some of that up for myself. Probably something out of the money with time, I think makes the most amount of sense. I saw that there's a 2-day squeeze on it. We should probably spend a little bit more time on this. I tend to kind of gloss over the crypto stuff when I probably need to give it a little bit more well-deserved credit. Because this pattern is this is a completely correct pattern. It's a completely correct pattern to at least test the highs, which are basically about $2 higher, which in the in this stock would be worth it because you can call this a double bottom, and I think that's correct. But it's actually it's a double bottom with an undercut. So oftentimes that'll be enough to kind of challenge the highs. The scores are obviously quite good. So it does have a 2-day squeeze. Let's try Bitcoin itself, which is BTC. Let's see what that looks like. Bitcoin itself as a futures product looks ridiculously good. The pattern here looks like it really does want to break out. So this probably needs to be bought. Now the question is how to do it. Part of me wants to do it through the Bitcoin micro futures. It could also be done through BitO, or excuse me, IBIT. Yeah, I didn't put this on the list, but this definitely needs to go on the list. This is extremely good. Doesn't mean it works, right? Like I think one way to quantify whether you're doing your job or not is not necessarily through your wins and your losses. It's whether you would take the trade all over again. So, for example, on this chart on Bitcoin here, if I took this chart, if I bought this, and tomorrow it's down $10,000 and I get stopped out, I can't feel bad about it, right? I can't feel. I actually have to feel good about it because if you showed me this setup 100 times, I would have to buy it 100 times. Doesn't mean it works 100 times. It maybe only works 70 times out of 100. But this is quite a setup. So what's the trade, if there is one? Go to IBIT. It's a question of etiquette. Honestly, the 60s for July monthly look pretty cheap to me. They're about 280. $1.62 of that's purely intrinsic. So $1.62 is intrinsic, $1.20 is extrinsic. That's about the right mix. I'm going to bid the 60s at 250. They're going for 280. I'm going to leave a bid here on the 60s for July at 250. That's a really good setup, though. It shows up more clearly on Bitcoin futures, but that is a very serviceable and good setup there in Bitcoin. So I'm going to bid the 60s at 250. See if we get a fill. ARM is this is always a stock that gives me a little bit of trouble, and I rarely see ARM clearly. Like NVIDIA, I'll see clearly. Most of the semis I can see clearly. ARM is one that always gives me a little bit of trouble. I don't really like to trade it all that much. It looks fine to me. You are actually within spitting distance of being in a buy zone. The problem is you have this and you have this. So you need one of these two things to fix themselves, right? You absolutely will need an arrow at some point in order to justify entry. So I would say if you can catch an hourly arrow whenever that happens, and I don't know where, like I don't know if it'll happen at 154 or if it'll happen at 150, but wherever the hourly arrow comes in, that would be the buy entry. As it sits here, it would just be kind of wait and see. This doesn't mean it has to play out today, but if we go back to where we started, this is a slight concern. Indicator down, 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 down. Price trying to pulse higher. Hopefully it's not a problem for this week, but at some point that piper will have to be paid. Hood. I think I saw Henry take a hood trade. Well, if he did, that's a good. All is good in the hood. In terms of the companion plays for this, I think that actually does make some sense. Like obviously Hood is the one to be in, but like Schwab looked good. You bring up Futu. This one looks good. Very serviceable. If it just needs an hourly arrow, if it catches an hourly arrow, it should be good. No cap tax on BTC. Only Missouri offers this. I wish they had that when I sold all of mine. It's like still one of the greatest self-owns of all time, by the way. They spent years building up a Bitcoin position. The average price was under 10K. I had almost 9 Bitcoin. And then I sold them all at 40K. And I paid taxes on the sale. It's one of the greatest self-owns of all time. Poet? I didn't even know this was a stock. It actually looks extremely good. I don't know what it is. I've never heard of it. Out of curiosity, I just have to look it up. Poet stock, Poet Technologies, with no description whatsoever as to what they do. Poet Technologies. What do they do? Poet Technologies is a semiconductor company that designs and develops optical interposers. I totally know what that is, which enable the integration of electronic and photonic devices on a single chip. These interposers are used in high growth areas like AI data centers, high speed networking, offering faster, more efficient data transfer at lower power. It sounds like they're kind of right in the epicenter of what's hot. All right, what's the catch? Surely their options is, I mean, as a $5 stock, it's probably an option unto itself. But we already got till August with this. Maybe I'm wrong here, but the $4 calls for August seem this price to me. This is super interesting. Obviously I've never heard of this. Otherwise I would have known what they do. I like this a lot actually. Like I hate $5 stocks, but I actually like this quite a bit. What's the trade? Is there a trade? I'm just gonna buy some shares. I'll track it with shares. This is actually a very, yeah. Let me just buy 500 shares here at 549. Okay, I just picked up 500 there at 549. It's a small position, just enough to track it. Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of this, but the description there basically hits all the marks, and this, and that, and that, and all of that, and that. And of course, notice I'm circling all the individual components. You don't actually have to do any of this, right? Because the indicator already does it for you. If all these things down here weren't circled, it wouldn't be max bull. Notice how it's max bull on every time frame with a weekly squeeze. A slingshot hourly, a flagging pattern. That's a Taylor gave you guys a compliment about getting better with your stock selection. This is an example of that. This is a very good pick. Now, mind you, I'm being very flirtatious with this stock, very complimentary towards it. It's a $5 stock, so at any point, it could go bankrupt tomorrow for all we know. But in terms of a pick, if you're going to trade something that's $5, this is it. This is exactly it. It hits the story. It hits the technicals. Good pick. Hmm. I don't really have a read here on ONON. I think if you're looking to buy it and you're longer term, and you're not necessarily looking for like a quick trade on this because this might take a while. It's actually a very interesting spot to buy it. You kind of want to buy it right in here. This is the anchored VWAP and the 200. You can see that there are folks that are accumulating there. So that all looks good. But if I'm just being honest in terms of like a trading situation, it's neutral, it's neutral, and it's neutral. So notice we just got off of Poet, and it was max bull, max bull, max bull with squeezes. This one is neutral, neutral, neutral with only one squeeze. The only really good thing I can say about it here is you have this zone here of some massive support. So if you were looking to buy it, that would be a good place to do it. Just you'd probably have to give yourself more time than you think you need. The video for the indicators updates should be on the same page as where the indicators are. All right, almost at the end of the session. It was only extra 15 minutes, but it actually felt like a lot longer. Normally, the hour-long sessions go by so fast, and then this one feels like it was like 2 hours. Yeah, we did laugh, we cried, had fun. It did feel like a long time. You said, does Ethereum look as good as Bitcoin? No, not even close. Bitcoin looks, I mean, I hate to say it because, there's nothing that'll jinx it faster than actually acknowledging how good it looks. But Bitcoin looks perfect. It has the perfect pattern, the perfect score, the perfect squeeze. I think Ethereum in general can be dragged kicking and screaming along with it. But no, this is nowhere near in the same ballpark as Bitcoin. If one works, they both should work. But pound for pound, Bitcoin is way better. For the changes for the scan, well, the scan has been shared as a link, so you don't necessarily have to make any changes. Just use the link I gave you and then save it, and that will be all the changes. I think this is insurance. Am I right? Excellent. Well, if I'm going off of the indicator, let's see if you could figure this one out. I'll put this one in your court. I think we got 3 minutes left. Talk to me, Seth. Based on what we've talked about in terms of the score, where do we buy this? Is it tasers? Okay. I'm not sure. I thought it was insurance. It doesn't matter though. I'll look it up in the meantime. Axon is an American company that develops technology and weapons for military, law enforcement, and civilians. So they do make the taser. Interesting. At the cloud. So not quite, because if we're buying the cloud, we need to have a better score than this. So the score right now is neutral, right? And so when a score is neutral, that means we don't have the ability to buy any moving average. So we need to wait for previous structure. So in terms of this, I don't really see any structure here. It just kind of went straight up. Maybe this low here could count. So I would maybe start looking closer to about 750. That'd be some structure. But in reality, you have a much better structure there. So I would look to buy it there, right? If this was a higher quality score, like for example, let's say that this was a bull, then we could buy, inside the cloud. If it was a max bull, we'd be buying the, very top of the cloud. Because this is neutral, it tells me personally to wait for either this level for the conservative entry, or if you want to be really kind of risky with it, that 750 would be kind of the earliest I'd be able to do it. Hopefully that makes sense. When it's neutral, ignore the cloud, ignore the moving averages, rely on previous major support and resistance. Only when it's giving you high scores are you given the green light to buy the moving averages. All right, so that'll be the last one there. And I learned who makes tasers. I always thought Axon was insurance. Is there anything else we're missing here? That was a very exciting session there. Look at what happened for the last 50 minutes. Hold on to your hats. Two dogs fighting over a bone. All right, so I'll go ahead and get out of here. We do have Amazon. We do have Take Two. We'll see how those trade. Again, one thing of a bit of warning here that I'll just point out one last time. The indicator has been going down this whole time. That may not be an issue until it's an issue, which might take until next week given the seasonality. But just be very mindful of your risk here as you trade. Doesn't mean to be scared. Just know your risk. Say it out loud. Say, this is how much I am risking on this stock before you get in. That way there's no surprises. And I'll be in the background if you have any questions. All right, guys, that's my time. Thanks as always. See you tomorrow. Or actually, see you Friday. Cheers.